Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of NFQ Business Banking, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, CEO Keeper of the Brand Marketing and Digital Agency, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. DB and I bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help grow your business. Plus, we interview top business leaders in the industry. And today we've got a really cool guest. Our guest bringing us business empowerment today is Mitch Maiman. He is president of IPS, Intelligent Product Solutions. Now, Mitch has had more than 40 years' experience in successful product development. Along with his partner, Paul Severino, Mitch has built a large, multifunctional product development team serving many Tier 1 clients, including Motorola, Google, Verizon, Tyco, Leviton, Anheuser-Busch, my favorite, L3 Communications, Pepsi, Steinway, and several divisions of Danaher Corporation, as well as numerous smaller clients. And he previously had a long and successful career at Symbol Technologies, where Mitch served as vice president of engineering, running engineering for a large, highly profitable business unit, as well as an advanced development organization. Mitch holds a master's degree in mechanical engineering from Columbia University in New York, as well as an MBA in Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. And he has a Bachelor of Science degree in Engineering Science from Hofstra University. I'm exhausted just from saying that. So
thank you.
You come highly qualified, Mitch, and thank you very much for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
All right. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about how you got to where you are now with IPS.
So I've had a long career, as you've articulated. So probably the most interesting thing is before IPS was the 13 years or so I spent at Symbol Technologies. Prior to that, I probably about 9 different companies. I was a pretty restless person through my early part of my career.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to find out, what I liked in engineering. I found a really comfortable, good place in Symbol when I joined. It was interesting. I joined the company when it was a $100 million or so business, not huge, but not small. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, the pitch the headhunter gave to me. He said to me, well, this founder, Jerry Schwetz, he says in 10 years this is going to be $1 billion company. And I said, well, he's probably full of it. But where I was is not going anywhere. I was at a defense contractor. Another job I loved, it was Norton Systems. But I joined Symbol. It was a 100-person in total engineering organization in about 1990. Mm-hmm. And I was there. As the company grew, I grew with it, and started as running a small engineering team, and I moved my way through to become the VP of engineering in the segment of the business that had to do with barcode and barcode reading technology. And the important point of that in my career is. And I didn't know this at the time. You never know. You don't always know what you're getting out of something at the time, other than a paycheck. Yeah. I was really learning a ton because, in essence, that was a growth company. I mean, so in essence, when I left in 2004, it was about $1.5 billion, and Jerry Schwetz happened to be right. In 10 years, it was $1 billion company. And when I left, it was about $1.4 billion. So I mean, taken from $100 million to $1.4 billion. By observation, if you're a good observer, you mm-hmm. you learn, how does a business grow? That was important. The other thing that's really important that sort of carried forward is about creating a very powerful, competent, technically strong, and highly creative product development organization. And I knew how to create a culture. I learned how to create a culture around it. How to build a team that implemented that. And so, when I left, and with a small interlude in between, to start Intelligent Product Solutions with my business partner, Paul Severino, didn't really even know the inventory of the skills I had, but one thing I knew was I knew how to build a team.
Right.
And I knew how to do creative work. And the only question was, will I have customers? Well, that wasn't actually as difficult a question for me as one might think, because I knew my alma mater was going to need help. Why? Because I was buying help. So another thing I learned from Symbol is the third thing is that is the gaps. So why form yet another consulting company, Long Island or anywhere else? Why do another one when there's many, many paradigms that exist? And I felt that there was a gap. I saw a gap in what I wanted to buy. And I said, I'll articulate that in a moment, but I saw that there was a gap in what I wanted to buy. My rationale around starting IPS was that if I could fill that gap, my friends and peers and former bosses from Symbol would be interested in buying that service. And if I needed to buy that service, there were probably a lot of other guys like me out there that had the same problem, and there'd be a market for it. So what I saw as the gap was that when I was at Symbol, there was like no one place I could go to do an entire product or accessory. I had people that could do certain vertical segments of what I needed. I had design firms I could go to. I had software people that I could bring on board for embedded software work. I had other firms that could do mechanical engineering. But if I really wanted to do an entire thing, I needed all of those people together.
Right.
And when I'm doing it with my own team, it's one thing to organize it. When I'm trying to do that with 4 or 5 partners who all have their own, business needs and business drivers about what they're trying to accomplish and how much they're trying to spend and stay within budget, they weren't necessarily all focused on my end result that I needed. So I said, if I could have everything under one roof, all that communication, all of that debate, all of that controversy that takes to get from start to finish, that's got to get handled under one roof. And I'm going to do that for you. So I'm going to make your problem go away. And that was the basis for founding IPS.
And I'd say very successful at doing that. Now it's interesting because you said you were restless before, and we were talking a little bit, before the show. One of the things I love about doing business development is that every day is different because you're dealing with different clients. So you have a similar, experience, right?
Right. So I mean, after 11 years at running IPS, the thing I love every day is I don't know what's going to walk in the door in the morning. And it's not like what's going to walk in the door every morning that is in line with my business. I have no idea what's going to walk in the door. I don't know what business opportunity is going to walk in the door, and they're hugely diverse.
Right.
So, I mean, I could be getting a call from one, huge multinational about needing help on a particular project in one business area. Let's say it's Anheuser-Busch. I could get a call from ABI one morning, and it's something having to do with beer vending systems. 3 hours later, I might get a call from a startup that, met me through maybe the incubator at Hofstra, at Hofstra or say Stony Brook, or I might get a call, about some maybe consumer product, and then I might get a call in the afternoon from an old friend, a former co-worker who might be at L3 Communications doing, body imaging systems for the TSA and say, hey, Mitch, I need help on this. And so that diversity is exciting to me.
Yeah. Now, you are listening to Tara Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, and our guest today is Mitch Maiman. Now, do you prefer Mitch or Mitchell?
Mitch.
Okay, that's what I thought. Mitch Maiman of Intelligent Product Solutions. There's a lot of diversity in what you do. Let's talk about a particular client, if you can, that, I was lucky enough and privileged enough to take a tour of your facilities, which I would strongly recommend if that's a possibility that people do that, because it is like the James Bond rooms.
Yeah. It's the basement it's the basement of the intelligence agency, and there's just a bunch of, we don't have lab coats. That's the only difference between us and Q's lab is the guys guys and women, the women in my organization, they don't walk around in lab coats, but it's functionally equivalent.
Yeah, but it was great because when I was there, I didn't want to leave just because it was like every room was very interesting. Can you tell us about how your services made an impact to one particular client?
Well, I'll tell you something. Of course, we love our large clients. Google and Zebra, which was Motorola, which was Symbol.
Right.
I mean, I love our large clients, and it's great. But if we do something very successful for them, it helps them, but it may not radically move the needle. So again, you look at let's say at Google, is how many billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and if I do something for them and it's successful, maybe that generates tens of millions of dollars for them, or hundreds of millions of dollars for them, or a few $1 million for them. So it helps that company, but it doesn't move the needle. So what I love is I have a startup that is really one of my favorites to talk about, and we have a tremendous symbiotic relationship. It's a company called AdhereTech, and they're based in the city. We started working with them where there were 3 guys in a small office in Manhattan. It's a smart connected pill bottle. So imagine you're taking, I hope people don't have to deal with this, but many of us will, some life-critical situation, and you need a medication that really you need to live,
right.
Where it's not like you're taking a daily, baby aspirin every day, where if you miss it one day, nothing's going to happen to you that day. But imagine you have severe cardio problems and you're taking a medication where if you miss one dose, maybe you'll be okay. But if you miss 2, you may not wake up the next morning.
Right.
It's a really serious situation, and one that has a lot of people that care about. So they came to us with a very, very crude prototype that was going to sense and detect the removal of the cap from the pill bottle and the change in contents of the pill bottle.
Right.
So now we know, and it's smart and connected, right? Like IoT, as they like to say today. So we sensed this change in contents, the removal of the cap. We gave cues to the patient or the recipient of the medication to take the medication on time. But if they fail to do that, it has we have cellular modem in the base of the pill bottle. It sends out messaging to the cloud. The messaging in the cloud can send then a message out to a caregiver, to another family member, to the specialty pharmacy that might be delivering that medicine to you. It's generally not coming to you from the local CVS on the corner.
Right.
So that's the general idea of the product. But what's from a business standpoint, and what's so satisfying about it is I went from this company that had just this concept, and they've raised, I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars. They've raised tons of money, but that's, if people really really have the right idea and they want, money can be raised.
Right.
What's important to me is they became a successful business. They're not a startup anymore. Let's call them an early stage company.
Right.
They're distributing the technology through several major drug companies that distribute the medications through this vehicle. They also, distribute it through these specialty pharmacies that are providing these medications, and drug companies, as an example of how they use that's kind of a very related case, is for clinical trials. Mm-hmm. So when a drug company puts a new medication out for trials to report to the FDA, they need to know, what are the outcomes from taking the medication according to the specific protocol. So you need to get the anecdotal information or tested information on the patient's condition, but you need to also verify the patient's taking the medication the way they're supposed to, so you can make the correlation. Well, the nice thing about this pill bottle is it does that for you, and it's unattended. So, again, if you imagine the patient taking this is a senior citizen, they may be forgetful. They don't remember to call in when they took their medication, or they don't write it on the pad. This doesn't require any human intervention. In fact, you don't even know about it. So, why am I so happy about it? Is they've got a really tremendous success going, and talk about moving the needle. We took them from nothing to something that they were really now a successful business, and that's very satisfying. And then together we worked. We got them a couple of awards. We got design awards for the product. They actually got the product. And we got a plug in there too into the Cooper Hewitt Museum in Manhattan. They had done an exhibit based around they call it accessibility. It really had to do with technology, helping people with life needs, people with challenges and other issues to be able to get along in life. And I can't tell you, I've never had another product in my entire career, 40-something years, where I could actually say, you can go to this museum and you could see an exhibit and our company, is named there. And I was very, very proud of my team, but I was really proud of my friends over at Here Tech, and I feel like, in a way, I've adopted them as my own.
Yeah,
and that's a really good feeling. It's more than it's business, but it's also more than business. I've changed the lives of these people, in making the business for them
and their clients for sure. You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, and our guest today is Mitch Maiman, President of Intelligent Product Solutions.
When you're making a decision as a consumer, the most important thing is trust, which is why the BBB is such an important tool. Sometimes a new company will generate a lot of buzz, but that doesn't mean they're trustworthy. There are places that pretend they're treating you like kings, while behind the scenes they're making you look like a clown. But with BBB, if you spot false advertising, they're there to help you blow the whistle. Or if you've got a complaint, file it with the BBB and they can actually help you get it resolved.
Test your advertising IQ. Go to bbbadtruth.org.
Welcome back to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, and our guest today is Mitch Maiman, President of Intelligent Product Solutions. And I'd like to talk about something that was really cool that I got to see in one of your James Bond rooms, and that's the product that you worked on for Anheuser-Busch.
Sure, I'd love to tell you about it. So we were working with the a business unit within Anheuser-Busch that does their innovation work, and we helped create something that's called the Beer Box. So I'm
sold already.
Yeah, it's very novel. There's nothing else in the world like it, which right away gets me excited when I can do something that doesn't exist in the world. So everybody, in your audience is familiar with, vending machines for beverages. You can, go to a Pepsi machine. We do work for Pepsi too. You can go to a Pepsi machine, putting it whatever, $1, $2. I don't know what they charge anymore. Maybe $5 for a Pepsi at a ball game. And out comes a bottle of soda, and that's fine. But when you look at sort of concert venues, entertainment venues, sports venues, everybody's probably been to one of these or another. And let's use sporting as an example. Right. If you're of age and you want to get a beer between innings at the Mets game, you get up real quick, you run to the counter, and you grab a beer and you go back. But what happens if the line is long? Now you're thinking about, the inning's about to start again, or I got to get back to my seat, and you may or may not buy that beer.
Yeah.
So imagine now, to sort of solve that problem, you have something called Beer Box, which is a beer vending system. What we created doesn't look anything like a vending machine. A vending machine usually is a tall, vertical thing with a clear face front, and you put your money in and you get your beverage. This looks sort of like a bar, about the length of a desk, a little longer than a desk, a little wider than a desk, at about bar height. You go up to the machine, you swipe your credit card or your debit card, and we move a cold can of beer from the vending system to a station where we take the can of beer, which could be randomly positioned horizontal, but randomly positioned relative to front or back. Okay. We take the can of beer, we find out where the top is, with optical sensing. We position the can so the top is up. We bring the can up to a station where we locate the tab. We position the tab and we pop open the tab and then dispense the can of beer open through the one of the surfaces of the vending machine. So the natural question, of course, is why pop the top on the beer? Well, if you go to Madison Square Garden, or you go to Citi Field, or Yankee Stadium, really anywhere in the country, you can't dispense a can of beer unopened.
Right.
Every time you get, that's why when you go to a stadium and if they're going to have a can of beer, they'll pour it into they'll either give it to you open or they'll pour it out into a glass and take the can. It's a very old law going back to like the end of Prohibition, but it's the law that's been sticky. So we have to, if we're going to vend a can of beer, we got to vend an open can of beer. Nobody has ever tried to automatically open a can of beer, and you can imagine that created all kinds of technical challenge because the beer can was never meant to be opened by a machine. It was meant to be opened by your finger.
Right.
And people are very facile. If the tab is rotated a little bit, you know to rotate the tab to the right position and pop it open. If it's a little closer to the can, you get your fingernail down a little lower. If it's popped up a little bit, you deal with it that way. The human beings have near infinite ability to pop open a can of beer. A machine's only got one shot to do it right, and it took a lot of doing. So I will say when we did our first generation of this machine, we had a lot of beer spilled in our facility. It sort of smelled like a brewery for a while, but we eventually did that, and we built up several prototypes. They're kind of in an intermediate stage now, but they've been shown and they've been used. And in one venue that I recall, involved our team is, if you recall, the concert in Las Vegas where there was a shooting, we literally had our machines there, and one of our engineers was literally there sort of babysitting the machines while they were in this trial. So he hid behind the machine, which had two large banks of beer cans in front of him. So in a way, he was sheltered.
Dual purpose. Well, listen, if you're ever at a shortage for people testing that machine, I'm glad to take one for the team.
Sure.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, and our guest today is Mitch Maiman, President of Intelligent Product Solutions. Now, in addition to all the work you're doing as an innovator in so many different areas, the other thing that I really appreciated personally was, your partnership with some of the colleges and entrepreneurs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I've had a relationship with Stony Brook University for a long time. Probably goes back to the 1990s when I was at Symbol. We had a tight relationship with them. And so we have several relationships. So I these days, besides my relationships that are driving the interns into our company and the entry-level engineering folks into our company that come from Stony Brook, we're connected to sort of their incubator programs, and we interact on a regular basis with the numbers of companies and entrepreneurs in that environment. Similarly, we have a relationship with NYIT, and right down the road here, I have a relationship with the entrepreneurship programs going on at my alma mater at Hofstra University. And in fact, in the last week, I met with two of the entrepreneur teams that are in their championship series, and I really enjoy that. It's a way of we get diverse view into the world of not just big companies but startups as well, and I get to see what's working, what's not working. And I get to be I get a lens into a lot of different people trying to start and run companies and run early stage companies, and so I'm happy to share those insights with others.
That's great, because honestly, you do have a very unique vantage point, so many different areas, and to share that with folks who are learning and trying to get into various businesses, for you to share that, I think that's extremely, extremely generous. Now, you do a lot. How do you keep yourself motivated when doing all this?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean,
obviously you're passionate about it.
Yeah. That's a very good question. It's somewhat personal, but it's about me and what do I enjoy doing. So I'm a pretty out of the box person.
Yeah.
I put this way, I being honest about myself and being in some ways self-critical. I'm wide but not deep. I like to be wide but not deep, and these days I'm not deep. So when I talk about the various programs that are going on in IPS, it's not me directly contributing to making those happen. To realizing those products, but I am seeing all the inbound and helping to bring in the new clients, and I really love it because every day I like to tell people that I get to see what the future looks like. Not in the 20 year, 30 years out. I'd have a hard time being better than anybody else at predicting what that would be like. But I do get to see for sure what's going to be in the next 5 years, that before anybody else has seen it, because the people that are coming in my door are the people with the ideas that some will succeed, some will fail, others will follow, those that fail, others will follow behind. And, for a person like me, that's very exciting. And that defines a good day. If I get 3 calls from people that I didn't know before and they have something, all 3 completely different, that's both exhausting and energizing at the same time. If you can imagine what that's like,
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Now, as we're getting to close, what's the one thing you'd like to maybe leave folks out there listening? What would you like to leave with them? That's a tough one.
That's a good question. I mean, I'm a really strong advocate for people going into engineering. I've been blessed with a really good career. I'll say the first 5 years of my career, I was really ready to quit because I never really found I had 4 different companies I was at in the first 5 years, and nobody let me go. I just quit. After a year, I would be just bored to tears. It wasn't really until, early that I got to discover what I liked. But I'll say this, that with all of the talk about sort of robotics taking over the world and AI taking over the world, there's a piece about the way human mind works. Someday, maybe in 100 years or 200 years, it gets replicated digitally or by some other means. But right now, it's a great career. I've always found it stimulating, and one of the things I like about working with the schools, putting the entrepreneurship thing aside, is just the chance to interact with people who are in my place, that I could see myself, many years ago. And if I can help provide people with an insight about why this is so good a career to go into. I mean, I'll tell you this, we're all working. Anybody in our field is working. At the height of the recession, when the unemployment was banging on double digits, the engineering unemployment went to the ungodly rate of like 4%.
Right.
Today, it's under 1%. That means everybody that wants to work is working. And, as a whole in all, we're all making pretty good money at it. And I know because I'm paying a lot of people. And it's a great career. And, again, talking to a student audience, it's something I highly encourage.
Yes. And what's your website and contact information so folks can find you?
Sure. So my website is intelligent product, one word, solutions, no .com, and intelligent product .solutions. And if somebody wants to reach me, they can reach out to me at my email address. It's Mitchm, MITCHM, at intelligentproduct.solutions.
Excellent. All right. And I'd like to leave you with this quote for DB's philosophy. Exploration is the engine that drives innovation. Innovation drives economic growth, so let's go exploring. Edith Witter. We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, your co-host and producers. The creative director of Tower Talk Business Radio is Rudy Breedy. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available on iHeartRadio as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcast, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the National Community College Foundation on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.